You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Well, it's a new year, but it's the same fantastic coverage on Force 13, and we are summoned to your screens once again because there are several systems active that we are currently tracking right now, with threats all across the Pacific. And indeed, all the systems we're going to be talking about today, as it is local time over the Pacific, is in that area, mainly in the Eastern Hemisphere, but also a rare surprise in the Western Hemisphere, which we're going to be talking about a little bit later on. My name's Nathan Foy. I am visible somewhere. There I am in the studio at the top right hand corner, and we've got a lot to discuss today or tonight. Of course, we've got different time zones all around the world. In Thailand it's 7 in the morning, and in Fiji it's just gone 1 p.m. Joining me today is elements of the rest of our team. Currently in this hour I'm joined by David and Isaac. Hello to you both.
Good to be here, Nathan, and also with Isaac and the others that will come into the studio. But tropical storm 36W and closer to my area, Penny and Mona.
A lot of things to be tracking at this time. As you can see, they're all floating across on the automated imagery that we're showing on the screen right now. There's Invest 90W. That is a potential risk later down the line to the Philippines. Here's the latest JMA track for Tropical Storm Pabuk. They're putting the system at 50 miles per hour. That's 80 kilometers per hour sustained winds with a pressure of 994 millibars. The first storm to make landfall in Thailand in quite some time. I can't remember off the top of my head now how long it's been, but I'm sure Isaac was talking about a few of those actually in the past that have made landfall there. There were some historic examples, Gay of 1989 and Harriet in 1962.
Yeah, there was also Linda in 1997, which I believe was if I'm not mistaken, I believe Linda in 97 was the last tropical storm period to make landfall on Thailand. So quite somewhat of a rare event.
You're just watching the forecasts go by for Mona and Penny as well there. That's from the Bureau of Meteorology for Penny, showing how the curve is expected pretty soon before the storm starts to reverse its course and head towards Australia. Here's some models showing everything that's possible, I suppose you could say. This is for Pabuk. You can see how there's even a spread before the storm even gets to Thailand. Remarkable how the 24-hour consensus isn't really there. There's Penny, even less certainty with that one, but a lot of the models do take it into the eastern coast of Queensland around about day 5 or 6, some of them a little bit later than that, indeed. Very uncertain movement. Same with Mona, really. It's sort of not moving very much right now. Fiji is likely to be affected, and it could be a slow-moving storm when it moves over the islands. And then, of course, it could be a massive rain problem. There's not going to be much left of it by the time it moves towards the west, we expect, towards the Coral Sea. And it will likely follow in behind Penny, wherever that goes. Here's the HWRF forecast models, showing Pabuk, first of all. How it's expected to remain a tropical storm. Mona, HWRF not expecting it to reach Category 1 hurricane equivalent status, but it is expecting a landfall on, I keep getting these two mixed up, I think it's Vanuatu, and then towards the southwest. There's Penny. HWRF wants it to stay well offshore for the next 5 days. So there's yes.
That is a very strong possibility. The Bureau of Meteorology is keeping a very close eye on it. There's so much uncertainty. They don't know whether it's going to have cyclone intensity when it tracks finally in towards the Queensland coast. But I note that the Joy Typhoon Warning Centre's latest cone has... it's actually reduced. It did have...
All right. I want you to come back to that. Just look at this. The Eastern Pacific right now has a system with a 50% chance, I think it was, in the next 5 days, 30% in the next 48 hours. This very, very broad system in the Eastern Pacific, around about 123 degrees west and approximately 9 degrees north. I don't recall having seen any areas of interest in January, never mind one forming in the Eastern Pacific. There are, I was trying to look through the records, ran out of time, but I'm pretty sure there was at some point in the first half of the 20th century a system that did develop in the Eastern Pacific in January. That may be wrong. I'll have to reiterate that at a later date. But right now we've got that potential. Anything that would form is not going to last very long, you would imagine, and certainly not make it to land. But that is a very, very interesting feature there right now.
Indeed. I mean, in fact, like, this is so rare. I can't think of anything really that's formed in the Eastern Pacific in January. The only thing I could think of remotely at the top of my head is Pale in 2016, but that was in the Central Pacific in January 2016.
I just want to point out that it's a shame the Eastern Pacific graphic isn't working there on the bottom left of your screen. I am very curious how it thinks it's in the year 2020, so that's very remarkable. It's not the year 2020, in case thought you'd entered a time warp, but that is what that graphic's showing. It's glitched up badly. If you've got any comments or questions for us whilst we're on the air during this time, there is a lot to track. If you've got any observations on the ground down in Thailand or in Fiji, then please get in touch with us. Start your message with Force 13 all in text to attract our attention. And I'm sure we'll get plenty of that. David, I believe we're streaming live on Facebook as well.
Yes, we are definitely streaming onto Facebook.
Wonderful.
And Nathan, I will be stepping out of the studio for about 30 minutes. So I'll be back as soon as I can. But the International Space Station, at this time of day, they will be flying down over the southern hemisphere systems, and hopefully sometime this afternoon on the tropical storm over there, Thailand area.
Indeed. Do you have any further commentary that you'd like to give on Mona?
Mona is causing a lot of concerns within Fiji. The Fiji Times is now reporting the system, and the track could be critical. We could see Mona doing a bit of a clockwise move before it impacts the main part of Fiji.
A loop. Possible.
Yeah, possible, yes. There's two possible tracks. And the word clockwise was actually used.
What do you think of
Nathan,
what do you think of what Fiji make of its forecast track?
Well, they have it tracking south. And then what I find interesting from the Joy Typhoon Warning Centre's previous cone or track, it had Vanuatu and part of New Caledonia within the shaded area. But it's the steering systems that are in play, especially with Penny and Mona, and it's a wait and see position on both. And Nathan, I know that we've spoken about the modelling, and one was indicating a track over here into the Coral Sea. But we've just got to wait and see. And then you mentioned about the area of interest in the East Pack. And we're only day 3,
Day 3.
coming into day 4 for January.
Well, that's one way to put it.
Yeah, and we've got, I think it's 90W up there,
Yes.
and it's all happening. So I'll be back as soon as I can.
Yeah,
And,
I'm just trying to bring up some visible imagery that actually has more than 3 frames about it of Mona right now.
I have screen share up right now on my end if you want to take a look.
Here is some imagery of Mona, which is a bit glitchy. And Isaac, your impression of the whole picture there that you're looking at?
It's obviously really glitzy there, but sitting aside from that,
On your screen?
Yeah, on my screen, yeah. You see a wide picture on my screen of entire tropical, what's going on in the tropics. You see 90W right here organizing. Right here, I believe, is, I forgot what this one was. I think it's Penny? Penny, right?
Yes.
I keep forgetting the names of these systems, I'm sorry. And then over here we obviously see Mona, which is a big threat to Fiji currently. I've heard recently from David that they've been getting over there some flooding rains before this. And Mona adding on to that is not going to make it any better.
That was from the New Year's Eve system.
Yeah, that's not going to make it any better in terms of impacts from there. So I'm expecting potentially hazardous flooding, hazardous flooding, and possible mudslides going along with this as it moves past Fiji here in the next coming days really slowly, sadly, I'm afraid.
And tell us about what you're seeing in Pabuk right now.
Well, Pabuk is certainly organizing right before it makes landfall here. And as we've said, it's quite a rare thing to happen here. I don't know why my screen's gone blank here, but it's quite rare to happen to see this. I'll just go to this image that I have over here. Quite rare to see this happen. Last time we had a tropical storm make landfall on Thailand period was in 1997 during Tropical Storm Linda. That made landfall as a tropical storm. And then the last typhoon period to make landfall in Thailand was Typhoon Gay in 1989, which made landfall, I believe, on November 3rd. So still quite a rare event. Expect possibly some flooding.
Although what you can say is that these types of systems are more likely around this time of year, around the end or the beginning of the year, because of how storms tend to take towards lower latitudes.
Yeah.
In the
certainly
in the winter in the northern hemisphere, and of course it works conversely in the southern hemisphere as well, although much less commonly. In fact, 70% of all tropical cyclones form in the northern hemisphere each year. But of course now we are generally in the southern hemisphere season, but the northern hemisphere is still fighting on, and this system stemmed from tropical depression Usman, which we were watching over the Christmas period, and it really is a hangover really from 2018, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it's part of the remnants of Usman, if I'm not mistaken, too. So quite a remarkable system here.
There's a lot of provinces in the south of Thailand that are under severe weather warnings, advising for very torrential rainfall, widespread rainfall, and of course strong winds. Of course, the wind speed inside the storm right now is roughly 50 miles per hour. That's 80 kilometers per hour. And of course higher gusts inside that. The east coast of Thailand would appear to be getting almost the worst of it by now. That small
Certainly,
area
yes.
there.
Yeah, so as this little blow up of convection makes its way over land the next coming hours here, just be safe. Stay where you are. I know they've evacuated some people here, but if anybody who stayed along the coastline here, just stay where you are, hunker down, get into the innermost part. Well, not then. Well, yeah, the innermost part of your house, and just stay there till this subsides. This is supposed to be a minimal tropical storm as it makes landfall. So you should be fine. But as long as you stay inside, you should be safe and wait for this to pass and go about your normal daily routine afterwards.
We've got a lot of unrelated questions at the moment. Which storm do you think will be the strongest in the Atlantic hurricane season this year?
This early?
What is the point of questions like that? I'm sorry, but there aren't even any storms in the Atlantic yet, and hopefully not for many months.
It's a bit too early to say.
Possibly in the Eastern Pacific.
Come back to us in like 4 months from now, and we might have a better idea, but not in terms of single storm wise.
And people are still desperate to know when the Pacific Typhoon season animation will be released. Well, not whilst these storms are active. That's all I can tell you on that. Let's bring us back to the latest imagery of Mona, Cyclone Mona, which is just off the northern coast of Fiji and is already starting to affect the islands. And now let's see if we can take a look at the usual thing that I like to pop up, which is those estimated estimates for, let me start that again, satellite estimations of the rainfall, which I can show shortly. Maybe this will do the trick. This is potentially a very important graphic. It shows you where the main part of the storm is, and sometimes it can actually give you a hint about its structure before you can see it on visible, or indeed on infrared. But this is what it's showing right now once it loads completely. So those green colors there, just trying to reacquaint myself with the guide for the numbering there. So 5 millimeters per hour in those green areas, that's the satellite estimate, and that is just about reaching the north coast now. And then the center of the storm has some very high rain rates, and that is approaching land pretty quickly unless the storm reverses its course or stalls or does the loop. That might happen in the next few hours, looking at how this is coming about, unless that flare-up decides to die off. But it would appear that that flare-up is over the center of the... No, it isn't. The center's a bit further to the northwest there, so it is actually more of a band that's coming through, but certainly quite a torrent that's going to arrive on the northern island there. I still need to confirm that that is Vanuatu. Yes.
Vanuatu.
I do get the two mixed up. I don't know how people manage. Vanuatu about to receive some significantly heavy rainfall, especially along the western side of the island, I would hesitate to say. Western and central, eastern not so much. And then you've got the center of the storm just off to the northwest there, which is also dragging itself southwards just a little bit. In a few moments I'll bring up the Pabuk imagery, but Isaac has something better for now, and that's the latest radar out of Fiji.
Yeah, you can see the heavy bands coming into... I'm not good with my Fiji geography here, but coming into this island here...
We're a bit rusty on that. We haven't done a Fiji storm since February last.
Yeah. So about 39, just to play it safe in the middle here, about 39 looks like millimeters. I'm going to assume that's millimeters an hour coming down here from this particular cells that are going down onto this island here. I think that says Lubasa, but I can't tell because the rain's kind of covering it up a little bit. So
39 millimeters per hour.
I want to say that's millimeters, but I could be wrong. Could be something else. And then that big island over here, getting some scattered showers off to the east coast, and some now forming over onto the west coast here, moving, looks to be southwest here, on approach from the cyclone, Cyclone Mona, the outer bands, I believe it is. But this is the Fiji radar here, and I'm going to pull up the graphics here off the JTWC here really quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
You can see they forecast, the JTWC at least, they forecast to be a 75 knot system as it approaches Fiji here in the coming days, as it kind of really slows down, actually, which would be really bad. It's supposed to be a really bad flooding threat. I imagine so, because this thing's pretty much about to pull up its brakes as it heads over towards Fiji here. And the winds are not going to make it any better. So please stay safe if you're in Fiji. Make sure you hunker down, make sure you have food, water, everything you need to last you a few days as this thing passes by really, really slowly.
Could be hurricane strength, but the way it's drawing nearer, it just doesn't really tally with what I'm seeing on that forecast. It just, unless it slows down very soon, it just feels like it's going to move more quickly than what they're saying, because they only have it striking Vanuatu in about 24, maybe a little bit more than 24 hours, which brings us to tomorrow afternoon local time. And I'm not sure at the moment, unless it, unless it stops. Let's just also bring you the latest rainfall estimates on the satellite for Pabuk as well. You can see here its movement would look to appear to be maybe just northwest, or maybe west-northwest. Hard to tell on that, but this is in general a much wetter storm looking at its profile here. So again, it's the light green areas that are 5 millimeters of rain per hour. Once you enter the yellow zones there, that's just over 10 millimeters per hour. That's half an inch. And then when you get to the orange areas, that's 20 millimeters. Into the next color, which is sort of a dark rose color, is when you get to 25 millimeters, 1 inch per hour. So you're seeing a lot of rainfall over the peninsula at this time. Some of it reaching the western side of the peninsula now as well. The most intense part of the storm still quite a little bit offshore, and probably not going to move on shore for a little while as it continues to move with that northerly component. I'm not sure we could say where we would expect this landfall to occur, but probably not. I mean, if it keeps going in its current direction without a northward curl, it's probably going to make landfall somewhere near, I'm going to get this terribly wrong like most Thai pronunciations, so do forgive us for this tonight, but Nakhon Si Thammarat, which is on the eastern coast there, before moving through the peninsula out into the Andaman Sea, off into the Indian Ocean. Do you think its intensity will be affected much by the traversal over land here in the next 24-36 hours, Isaac?
I think it'll knock it down by a good maybe 5-10 miles an hour, and after that, weekend. Well, yeah, of course it'll weaken as it makes landfall here by about 5-10 miles an hour. But after that, JTWC are forecasting to strengthen back up to tropical storm force intensity, and then weaken back down to a tropical depression and eventually die before it makes landfall, it seems, on India. Well, not India. I don't know my geography there.
It could make landfall on Myanmar as well. If you look at the JTWC forecast, which I did have somewhere, we've got things all over the place right now. I have it here as well. In fact, there's very little surviving of it by the time it does reach land. It's actually expected to move through the Andaman Islands and then curving to the north towards the western coast of Myanmar. So interesting expectations there from the JTWC. The JMA, as far as I saw, take it, in fact they have very much the same thing going on there. The JMA track though is shorter, doesn't go out as long. I think there is a 5-day version, but I'm not showing it. It's not shown here. In fact, let's just go through to those models. You can see some of it do take the storm, crawling to the south, ending up somewhere around Sri Lanka or the southern tip of India, but that's a I mean, I think there's 24 in that ensemble and about 6 are saying it, so you could say on the maybe a 25% chance, 75% of those taking it on that curve round to the north then east.
Wow.
Just with regards to Penny as well, a lot of stalling expected over the next few days, and then its tracks taking it generally towards Australia. Almost all of them end up there eventually. Some of them take a very roundabout route. Massive detour on some of those eastern models, taking it almost as far as Vanuatu and then off near New Caledonia and then off towards Australia. Some of them, I mean, earlier on actually, a few days ago, we were talking about the GFS, which was having Penny surviving after landfall into the Gulf of Carpentaria, over the top end of Australia and off the western coast in 16 days' time. We'll wait and see whether that might happen. That would be ridiculous. And here's Mona once again, and you can see there the which one is the GFS? It's the red line there calling for a loop. So is the CMC. A loop before it goes into Fiji. Interesting that the Navgem takes it through Tonga after that as well. But the consensus there is pretty much for the system to loop off towards the west after that through the southern part of Vanuatu, onto New Caledonia, which will probably be the last place to get significant effects from the storm. It's likely to be just a remnant by the time it reaches Australia in the wake of Penny. Some more models there, and I don't know if you've got anything to show us on the Eastpak system.
No.
No.
I'm afraid not. I mean, I could pull up the NHC really quick here. Actually, I could do that, yeah. It has a, last I checked, it had a 30% chance of formation in the next 48 hours and 50% next 5 days. And it hasn't updated. I think you see the graphic here and where it takes it off, too. Don't know if I'm going to read what it says there, but 30% chance next 48 hours and 50% chance for the next 5 days,
yep,
according to National Hurricane Center as of now.
We can see it very clearly, actually, yeah. So that's the East Pacific at this time of year. You didn't think we'd be talking about that today. So do bear with us. We've got a lot to talk about at this hour. If you've got any questions to try and steer the conversation, you sure can. Start your message with Force 13, all in text. And if there's any questions, we do our very best to endeavour to answer them. I'm just going to try and get some GOES 17 imagery.
Right. I'll try doing the same here too.
Is that Mona there that we were looking at?
Oh yeah, you want me to go back to it?
Well, there's GOES as well. Okay. That's the JTWC forecast for Penny. A right mess there.
See, Mona, I have...
And we're just about to get GOES 17 on my screen here now.
Here, there's Mona.
Very uncertain forecast track for that one.
Indeed.
Alright, here we go. I believe this should be imagery of Thingamajig, the system in the East Pacific. 50% chance in the next 5 days. Do we know why they are... They think that they're giving it so much of a chance?
I'm reading it here. I'm assuming it's likely due to... But they're saying that it's possible that it could gain subtropical characteristics. They're unfavorable conditions. I'm just reading it off here. I'm sorry, but I'm not saying much. I'm assuming it's likely due to there being light shear. I'm going to go ahead and look at the graphic for shear here.
Very expansive system. Be a surprise to everyone if it did indeed form. It's just the kind of crazy year 2018 has been. It's still not finished, really. It's sort of like an extension to that year. Of course, Pabuk certainly is. It formed just before, or at least it became a tropical depression just before the new year. Became a named storm halfway through the 1st of January, and is still with us now as we enter the 4th, just off the coast of Thailand. So we're still tracking many systems here, and that's why we've gone live at this time. Let's see if we've got any more questions. Why does the brown ocean effect happen more in Australia, Isaac?
I don't know. I as far as I know, Australia has desert and kangaroos, so I have no idea. I don't know. Ask King for that
How
one.
stereotypical.
I don't know.
Well, there is a lot of desert. I mean, off the coast there.
I don't know.
The coastlines are often very shallow, especially the Gulf of Carpentaria. It's a very warm environment usually. I imagine wind shear is usually pretty low when these things happen. I can't remember the last case in point. One of the early year storms last year did it, didn't it? Was it Kelvin?
Kelvin, I think.
They need to do studies on that one. You would think the desert being such a dry area, but I guess the storm has made its own moisture environment that kept it surviving for a little bit longer, and maybe something to do with all the heat down there.
I think it peaked over land, if I'm not mistaken, too. It's quite an oddity.
Totally crazy.
Yeah. I was on, I forgot how basic
and it isn't,
tropical cyclone stuff works.
It isn't particularly high latitude either. There's a difference when we're tracking Cyclone Mekunu when it moved into Oman. It did survive a little bit, but it was much weaker by then. It might have done a little bit better if it was low-lying, but obviously the coast of Oman a little bit more hilly and mountainous. I'm just still eyeing this this system in the Eastern Pacific on my screen here, and there is a swirl on the western side of that. That's not what they've marked as the center on their bulletin. So the area that I'm looking at here is that little swirl there, which is quite some distance away from where the NHC have their center, which is around there. Very interesting turn of events. Probably still waiting for any established centers to make themselves known. I doubt that will end up being a dominant center, but it is an interesting little feature. But it's just a big mess at the minute.
An entire seared mess, yes. Like there's 50, 60 knots of sear around this entire thing, only just in two small pockets with lower sear. The two small pockets are where that other center you located was, and the other one was about where the NHC has their center at.
Alright, we'll keep checking back in with that. There's probably not much going to happen with that system, but we wanted to give it a mention. We're talking about a lot of things at this hour. Tropical Storm Pabuk just off the coast of Thailand. If you've got any observations on the ground for us, we'd be very happy to relay them. Of course, in Fiji as well, the storm is not far away. Cyclone Mona and Penny is something to watch on the east coast of Australia for the next 5 days or more. A long range, certainly at least in terms of time, a long range threat. Still quite a way away out in the Coral Sea, and it's going to stay there for a few days yet.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get some more imagery up here. Any more questions? Start your message with Force 13. What are your early predictions for how many storms will there be in the Atlantic?
Oh,
We're getting questions about this on the 4th of January. The season doesn't begin until June the 1st. Well, if the El Nino holds, it's going to be a below average season. That's all I can tell you right now. And just out of interest, there are some very small islands near where Invest 90W is. You can see it in the orange circle on the screen just past there from the JTWC. They've marked it as a medium chance of development in the next 5 days. I think it's part of the Marshall Islands, or it might be even further south than that. I'm going to have to regain my compass here and try and figure out where that is. You'll see it on the screen in just a moment.
Pabuk here that I'm going to put up shortly again.
Whilst we wait for that, this is Invest 90W, and I'm trying to figure out exactly where it is, which islands it is over. I think I can see them now as we are joined by David again.
Yes, I am
Kiribati. Kiribati is where the storm is currently located over right now. Very close. The center of the system is just over. What islands are they? I'm doing geography off the cuff here. The Gilbert Islands.
Gilbert. Interesting.
And that is the main part of Kiribati. That is Invest 90W for those who are curious about that. You can actually see there significant amounts of rain even falling over that area. That is probably the landmass that's seeing the most amount of rain from any of these systems right now, so I think it does deserve a mention. And you can see not far to the south is Mona. Where is it? There it is. Continuing to move closer to Fiji, and you can see there significant rain just about reaching Vanuatu, and some more significant pockets off to the east as well, affecting some of those other islands. But the centre, I think, is still that northwestern bulk there. David.
Where do we go? Go to Joint Typhoon Warning Centre on a motorcycle. I'm just bringing everything up. Animated. Well, I just lost the line. So, viewers.
Well, Isaac, I wonder if you could get models up for us, because we want to know about this 90W. The HWRF does make it a tropical storm for the next 5 days as it moves off towards the west. Is there any long-range threat to the Philippines still? Because some models did have that down not so long ago.
I have no idea. I'm scrambling like David here, trying to.
Oh, you're showing us. All right, you're showing us something that's probably more interesting. Just that viewers had that on their minds. My suggestion is it probably will get close, but whether it fizzles out before it reaches the Philippines, we don't know yet. So you can see both systems' radars there, and especially the Thai radar looks more interesting at this time, because you can see massive bands moving through at this moment.
The Joint Typhoon Warning Centre for Invest 90W, they have it located 3 north, 175 east, located 2.7 north, 177.8 degrees east, about 600 nautical miles southeast of, I hate pronunciations, Kwajalein or Kwajalein. Anyway, animated multispectral satellite imagery shows a partially exposed low-level circulation surrounded by weak scattered convection. 91 gigahertz image shows supporting organised low-level circulation, and upper-level analysis depicts low 10 to 15 vertical wind shear, favourable poleward outflow. Sea surface temperatures 28 to 30 Celsius in the surrounding waters are conducive for further development. Global models show surface winds estimated at 10 to 15 knots, Minimum sea level pressure around 1,010 millibars. Joint Typhoon Warning Centre has a medium for further development. So that's 90 W. And Nathan, you want some models?
Yes, if that's at all possible.
Right, well, give me a minute and we'll bring them up.
Somewhere.
HWRF. And I just gotta...
Well, whilst we wait for that, I just want to introduce Max. How are you, Max? Is he there?
I don't know.
Sounds like he's still setting up.
With 90W?
Yeah, well...
What do you want to go for? Alright, 90W. All right.
Whatever takes your fancy.
Well, here comes the screen share. The things we have to do. Radio.
Yes, well, please get on with it. Everyone wants to see.
Yes, I know.
Okay, I don't know what we're looking... Okay. What are we looking at here?
That's HWRF. And it's from 3 to 126 hours.
Yeah, that's Invest 90W moving off towards the west. You can see the degrees ticking by at the bottom there. 164 east, 162, 160. Oh, it started again.
And they have it down to 986.
A long way to go before it gets to places like the Philippines, though. But it's likely to remain low latitude, 10 north at the end of that loop there. And doesn't gain any particular latitude. There's another look.
The HWRF parent.
And none of it loads.
Unfortunately, various sites have been having hiccups, and here we go.
So there it is, a very tiny system by the looks of things, and then slowly moving towards Guam. And that's the end of the run that we saw there.
That's it. Alright, we'll go to another one.
Please.
Here we go. 997.
Yes.
I have a tracking rest.
Yeah, it begins north and then it turns towards the west.
Yep. Okay.
Let's move on to another storm.
No, GFS 90W.
Alright then, the GFS was saying at one point that it would move into the Philippines.
And
you might want to give up on that for now. Let's take a look now at the latest. This is ironically satellite imagery, also from GOES 17. It stretches to cover Cyclone Mona. Remarkable.
Alright.
Compare those visible imageries between GOES 17 and Himawari 8. Max, are you here now? I'm sure I heard him in the background just then.
He was. I don't hear him now. I think he may have muted himself.
How disappointing. Well then, I'm just waiting for David to get some models that work, but let's go back to the latest radar scope. You can see what's going on in both of these two locations. We're tracking Cyclone Mona near Fiji and Tropical Storm Pabuk, which is off the coast of Thailand now. Pabuk has winds of 50 miles per hour, that's 80 kilometers per hour, and a pressure of 994 millibars. Mona is, I think they had that at 60 miles an hour, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I did. The Fiat.
That is 95 kilometers per hour, and a pressure of 991 estimated by the automated system from the US Navy and JTWC.
Look at the amount of rain going from Pabuk though. That one. That one's interesting too. If not,
are the
maybe that's the
scales
radar doing that.
are the scales the same?
Roughly, yeah. I mean, the Thailand one seems to be slightly a little bit lower than the Fiji one in terms of color scale, but yeah, roughly they are. But as you can see on the Thailand one for I forgot its name already, the Tropical Storm 26W, I'll just call it. You can see the rain rates off of that are quite high. I'm assuming this is maybe about 36 decibels radar. I don't know what that would be in millimeters or inches because it doesn't have the conversion rate over there. But
Some
quite heavy bands of rain.
significant elevations inland there as well, which is probably helping those rainfall amounts.
Yeah, that too. And then with the Fiji one, you could see in Labasa some light rains. Looks to be light rains at least. Might be heavy rains. I don't know about this color scale, but some rains over there and then over towards eastern Fiji as well. David, got anything of note here?
I know that there is a lot of concern for the people of Fiji. As I mentioned earlier, the Fiji Times reporting on Mona, and unfortunately this tropical cyclone is only going to compound, make the things a lot worse for much of the country. Especially they've had recent floods. Some of the roads remain closed. So, and they're going to be hit again by Mona. And with Mona, Nathan, I have the floaters now on the screen.
These are some other looks that we can see of Cyclone Mona at this time. You can see quite clearly where the center is, although it is waning a little bit in those last few frames. Certainly not intensifying right now.
The cooling of the cloud tops?
Warming of the cloud tops.
Oh, warming, I mean.
Weakening.
And
Warming equals weakening in this case.
Hopefully it continues that trend.
There's the water vapor imagery. Very moist environment. And I can hear myself in the background there.
You guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Max, and we can hear your speakers as well.
And I can hear myself.
Yes, excellent. There I am again. We'll have to sort that out somehow, Max.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm having technical difficulties.
Yes, I'm not sure we'll be able to get that working at the moment until you find the volume button. But these are the latest satellite frames shown from David's screen right now as well, with the sea surface temperature contours as well.
Kind of.
yes, 29, 30 Celsius.
My new microphone doesn't like to be plugged into a computer at the same time as something is plugged into the audio jack.
I see. We need to we need to fade it down before we can because I'm hearing too much of everyone until further notice. David.
Now, Tropical Storm 36W.
Yes, it does have a name, Pabuk.
Pabuk. Thank you for pronouncing it.
The you can see here the western side there, the banding from the center of the storm has weakened, tailed off as well, obviously due to the land interaction. The center there is still pretty strong. Intense convection continuing, but not quite as much as earlier. You would expect maybe another big pulse before it strikes land, before it moves over and enters the threshold into the Indian Ocean.
Nathan, I haven't had a chance to look at what the joint, not the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre, the JMA saying, but the Vietnam weather people, they're saying tropical storm and to decrease over the weekend. I think they're about, what, 60 knot winds, but all of the latest information is contained in my second update on the system, which is on the channel. And I think it's the water vapor.
Alright, I've got models here now because I don't think David's connection was good enough to present it. I can. Here's a look at the GFS in the Western Pacific over the next 16-day period, which is how long it goes out for. So at the very beginning there you can see Pabuk on the screen, and you can actually see 90W as well over here. So let's see what happens. So Pabuk moves off the picture to the northwest over the Andaman Islands, and then very quick formation of 90W there, very quick, and a small, compact but pretty intense typhoon going on for about a week there, just clipping the southern side of Guam on January 10th, according to this model. That is still some way out, so that could change. And then moving off, significant landfall on Samar in the Philippines by January 13th. That is 9 days out, so that's quite a long time. And then diving down to the south again. Oh my goodness, that's a landfall in central Malaysia as a tropical storm as well. That's very long range. I wouldn't put much faith into that at this stage, but well, it's following the trail that Pabuk has followed. That would be remarkable if that occurred. That is long range. I would stop it at Guam really for any sensible predictions, at least for the time being. The ECMWF also for the Western Pacific. Now, this may say something different. Doesn't develop 90W at all. So you can see how different the models can be. Doesn't develop it at all. The NavGem does develop it, pretty weak, but again going towards Guam, so that's another interesting trend there. And finally we'll just look at the Icon model here. It doesn't go out as far, only as far as 5 days, and it does start to develop by day 5 out near Micronesia.
And Nathan, following on re 90W Marianas, the National Weather Service Guam has a marine warning in place. Fresh to strong winds, rough seas will continue in the Mariana waters. Northeasterly winds 15 to 20 knots. Combined seas of 9 to 12 feet will continue within the Mariana waters as another shear line moves down from the north. These conditions should last through to at least Tuesday. And I've also got a high surf warning or advisory.
Now let's look at the southern hemisphere here. The ECMWF model first of all. So you can see the two systems there. Penny, this system here, and Mona. And this is now the forecast from the ECMWF. Mona makes landfall on Vanuatu, pressure around 986. And then it skirts the southeastern part of Viti Levu. I think that's where Nadi is, not Nadi, Suva, the capital. And then off towards the southwest. Penny limps into Australia, into Queensland. Mona passes south of New Caledonia. Very interesting setup. Penny survives into the Gulf of Carpentaria and intensifies, and it looks like it makes it out towards the western part of Australia. So it's back on again for that possible re-emergence.
Back on again.
in
Oh,
the... What sea is that over there, the western side?
Arafura Sea,
Yes.
Arafura Timor Sea.
Yes.
And Nathan, just quickly, whilst you're on Penny, the tropical cyclone information bulletin from the Bureau at 4 a.m. The Penny was central pressure 988. It's a category 2. Was located over the Coral Sea, about 600 kilometres east of Willis Island and 1,000 kilometres east and northeast of Townsville. Penny is expected to slow down and then turn back towards the southwest over the weekend. However, once again, there is still some uncertainty in the track during the early part of next week. At this stage, the system is forecast to weaken, and they've mentioned this twice now, to weaken as it approaches the Queensland coast. And they've brought this sentence in, or a couple of lines. There remains a risk that Penny will maintain tropical cyclone strength as it nears the coast.
Well, here's some more models on the same issue.
Oh, dear.
The GFS taking it, let's see here. Alright, so you can see the two systems, very similar to the ECMWF actually, only that Penny doesn't survive into the Gulf of Carpentaria. Nor does Mona beyond New Caledonia by the looks of things. Although possibly a weak depression there passing through Fiji late on in the run. Very little weight into that one. And then we've also got the nav gem. Let's see what it says. Landfall looks like it will be further north for Penny, and also rapid weakening of Mona after it passes through Fiji. And the icon model, again, something pretty similar to that scenario really. So the models appear to be in decent agreement on all of this. We've got to take a break now. We're just coming up to the end of the hour. We'll be back again in a few minutes' time with some more information and whatnot. I don't know what we'll have at the top of the next hour, hopefully some more observations. And if you've got any news on the ground, if you're in one of these areas under the gun from one of these tropical cyclones, please get in touch. Start your message with Force 13 to highlight our attention. Same if you've got any questions. That's all from us for now, for a few more minutes, and we're back shortly. Continues in a moment. You can follow Force 13's outlets, the website force13.com, our YouTube page, youtube.com/Force13, on Facebook under the same name, Force13, and our Twitter handle, it's @Force13 if you wish to get in touch. You can also add Force13 on Skype, and my personal account on Discord, Fool13, at extension 9094. You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Well, that was an uncomfortably long pause there, but we're finally back on the air. This is Force 13 Live. We're here discussing everything that's going on right now, which is quite a lot. We've got 2 cyclones that are affecting land imminently. Tropical Storm Pabuk, which is about to make landfall in Thailand, and Cyclone Mona, which is not too far away from Fiji and will be delivering significant amounts of rainfall over that area over the next few days. My name is Nathan Foy. I'm with you for another hour tonight, or today as the local time is, in Thailand 8:01 and in Fiji 2:01 PM. Thank you for joining us. If you've got any comments or questions for us, again, we will take them live. I'm also joined by the team at this hour, consisting of David, Isaac, Max, and Strat.
Good to be here for the second hour. And hi to Strat. And Max.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can actually hear me now.
We've got you.
I think I've sorted out the technical difficulties that I was having. It turns out I was doing the entire thing wrong. I was actually supposed to plug my audio jack thing into the mic itself, not into the computer.
Alright, great start. Strat, how are you? Nice to see you again.
Good. Just got back out from a long day. Decided, hey, I'd hop on to the live stream, help out. I'll be answering questions in the chat mostly because I haven't been the most informed today, more than probably talking most likely.
What do you make of this East Pacific system?
I saw that this
one?
afternoon in the Discord.
What do you mean,
server.
which one? There's only one.
I saw it this afternoon in the Discord server when Isaac posted it, and I was baffled. I was like, wait, what is this thing? Because I know
50% chance of formation. I'm not sure I've ever seen anything that could actually develop into a January system in the East Pac proper.
I think the earliest tropical depression to form was last year in 2018, right?
I think so.
And this would definitely be the first East Pac one in January.
I mean, I've definitely seen storms, January storms in the CPAC, like Akika of 92 and Pali of 16.
But they also said it could become subtropical, and I can't ever remember a subtropical storm in the Eastern Pacific either. Has there ever been one?
At least not one that's been official.
No official ones. I'd argue the 2006 Central Pacific cyclone was subtropical.
And maybe the one just this last season.
No, that was actually tropical.
It was?
Has there ever been one in the Eastern Pacific, though?
The Central Pacific, well, they say central as in north central. It was actually, would have been, I think, in the eastern half. It was way up north. It was in the mid-latitudes. Although, I don't think people have ever really paid much attention. You know, these systems that have gone out to sea and died, some of them may have become subtropical after that for a period.
That's also true.
But that's just something else. Not quite finished with the models, just to show you what the Indian Ocean looks like over this period. The GFS, so you get a better look at what Pabuk does now. You can see it moving and then really dying out in the Bay of Bengal. Loosely associated with the remnants of Penny, a little area there off the coast of Australia, Western Australia, not a cyclone. There's 90W making landfall in the Philippines. This is long range now, so that is, and then a massive cyclone there just forming off the western part of Australia. I wonder if that might be loosely associated with the remnants of Mona, as a matter of fact. That would be interesting. Oh, that is very late on in the run, though.
Something going through the Philippines as well.
Yeah, 90W. But that's very late on in the run. Speculative at best. ECMWF is what I'm more interested in because it showed Penny making it. No, it doesn't really. It stays as remnants by the looks of things. Penny doesn't quite survive off to Western Australia. You can see there keeps Pabuk a little bit stronger as it moves into Myanmar in about 5 days' time.
Yeah.
The nav gem.
I mean, are the models pretty much in agreement that Pabuk will eventually go to Myanmar?
Yeah. Or die before it gets there.
GFS kind of takes it more westward, though.
Nothing left of it by the time that happens.
Which one are you looking at?
Just asking a quick
right
question:
now?
why the unofficial Cyclone in the Central Pacific wasn't in our animation? I think it was.
I don't. It was in the.
No, it wasn't.
What might have been. It wasn't in the actual one. I've been wondering.
It wasn't
that
in the
too.
animation strat.
No.
I told you why it wasn't in the animation strat.
I forget.
It's a terrible excuse, really. So I'll just leave it as
why
that.
wasn't it? So why wasn't it?
Because it wasn't. Yep.
That's it.
Moving on. It will be in the World Cyclone Report, which is due out in a few days.
All right.
Fingers crossed.
Do we have any rainfall forecasts on Pabuk right now? I can actually take a look at the HWRF one to see if I can get anything.
Pabuk, yeah, well, we could take a look now at the GFS rain expectations, forecast accumulations of this system.
The HWRF shows potential of 24 inches on the Burmese and Thailand border on the peninsula. So that's a possibility. Wide, pretty significant swath of 200 plus milliliters or millimeters of rain.
Sorry,
most of it's
200
north
millimeters,
of the
you say?
Yep.
GFS has that beat. 300, they're saying at least.
They have GFS has a swath of 400 plus going through.
Probably.
for
Hard to
HWRF.
tell here.
It has a little. It has a bit, but the HWRF has a larger area of 200 plus millimeters.
Okay. Hard to tell. A lot of rain in any case, by anyone's standards.
I think after it crosses over, I think those. I might be just saying this completely wrong. The Indominus Islands there in the Indian Ocean might be.
The Andaman
as well.
Islands.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be a significant threat there as well, although a lot of the models have it weakening by that point.
Yeah. Still, regardless, this is more of a rain threat than a wind threat.
But even in terms of rainfall,
just-
less rainfall by then.
Also true.
Let's go back to, do we have, yes, let's go back to Isaac's screen showing radars. What can we discern from this radar imagery at this time? Which one should we go
Well,
with?
I guess Pabuk, because it's the closest one actually to making landfall right now. You can see heavy rains over there, where the radar is located at. I'm not really good at my Thailand geography, so I'm just gonna point where. But over in this, you can see there's pretty much 3 big bands right here. There's this first outer band, I'm assuming, right here, and there's this inner band right here, and then there appears to be maybe a tiny other band, unless that's just the interference from mountain ranges hitting the radar.
mountains.
But you can see the heavy rains, at least impacting the mountain so far. I'm not good at my Thailand geography, as you could probably hear, but
Well, none of
certainly
us
heavy
are because
rainfall
we hardly
happening.
ever cover Thailand. We're doing our best, folks.
And over here in Fiji, you can see the Labasa. You can see some light rain impacting that area right now at the airport over there. And then over in the main island of Fiji over here on the eastern side, and in the middle over the mountain ranges over there, you can see some light rain also coming in from the east as well. And then down here you have the mess of an AOI over here in the Eastern Pacific. I just decided to randomly pull up here for no reason, but you can see how massive it is compared to everything else. But anyways, unless you guys have any other thoughts about my screens here, I don't really have anything else to say.
let's bring us back to the full picture of Pabuk right now in just a moment when it loads again. You'll be able to see once again the latest rainfall estimates via satellite, which is loosely like the radar, but you want to bear into mind the rest of the storm when you look at this imagery rather than the part that's already over land, just to see what more is to come. So this is how it's been looking recently. You can still see the most intense rainfall likely to be east of land, just over the water there, and the centre of the storm still just offshore, probably going to make landfall soon unless it jogs to the north, which it could. Indeed, some models, and I think even the JTWC are saying that.
Interesting.
Strat? No? Okay. Well, where do we go now? There's that Eastern Pacific mess.
I just
down
realized I was
there.
muted. Oh my god. I was just gonna say Pabuk's pretty disorganized, so there is the chance that it gets a little tucked to the north before it makes landfall overall.
Really doesn't make very much difference, does it?
No, because it's only gonna be maybe a few miles at this point, nothing significant, especially when it's already this close to land. And when it's a weaker storm overall, we're not really focused as much on the specific landfall area as much as the broader impacts.
So one of many systems that we're tracking at this time, Tropical Storm Pabuk, with winds of approximately 50 miles per hour, 80 kilometers per hour, pressure of 994 millibars according to the JMA, the Japanese Meteorological Agency, who have the authority in this part of the world. In Fiji, Cyclone Mona is approaching, with winds estimated 60 miles an hour, although it does appear to be weakening in latest frames. Waiting for the latest ATCF information, which isn't yet out. Penny is actually the strongest of the storms according to that process. 65 miles per hour, pressure of 991 millibars.
And Nathan, I'm just reading the latest information from the BIV Penny. They updated 10 a.m. So what is it, 11 a.m. And Penny on the projected track is supposed to make a bit of a eastward track, then we curve to the southwest. And it maintains category 2 status. Sustained winds in the centre, 95 kilometres an hour, gusting 130, and is 620 kilometres east of the weather side and weather station, 1020 kilometres east northeast of Townsville. It's moving east southeast at 13 kilometres an hour. Penny is likely to turn towards the Queensland coast during a Saturday, but it is expected to weaken as it slowly approaches the coast. I love their wording. There is, however, a risk that Penny will reach the coast at cyclone intensity. So the Bureau really doesn't know what Penny is going to do.
Except stall.
Well, that is a very strong possibility, and isn't one of the models indicating a possible northward track?
Not really.
All right. Well, I'm just going to have a look at the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre. Yes, the cone of uncertainty takes in the southern... No, actually takes in a bit of the Solomon Islands.
Which cone of uncertainty?
I'll bring up the screen share.
Whilst we wait for that, Let's look back at the satellite imagery. This is just about fitting on the screen. Are both those systems. Penny on the left-hand side, and Mona on the right there, near Fiji. All three tropical cyclones that are currently active around the world will be threatening land at some point in their lives. Two of them already are. Penny the exception. It will end up threatening Australia later on. And there's been
both.
a real soup in the last few days in the southern Pacific, with a lot of storms trying to develop, including that one on New Year's Eve that nearly struck Fiji, or sort of did really.
We had 7 invests in the southern hemisphere within like 1,500 or so miles of each other at once. Or was it 6 or 7? I forget. It was an absurd amount.
Alright, David with his
Westpac?
huge cone for Penny.
No, this is Solomon Islands.
Yeah, but that's nonsense.
The JTWC in cone is always absurdly large.
It is.
Yeah, but it,
Yeah, yes it is.
Like that,
so
look at that thing.
Cairns down to Townsville.
I don't know why their cones are so large. What about the Bureau of Meteorology's cone?
That might be just a
give me a
least
minute.
minor bit better rep.
Go on, press a few buttons. Oh dear, David's struggling.
Are we
Oh, look at the
simulcasting this on
rainfall.
Facebook, by the way?
Rainfall, alright. What's that, Strat?
Are we simulcasting this on Facebook as well? We are.
Yes, we are.
Do we have any
And you
questions
can,
there? I wanna
and
go
there
over
are
there
questions
quickly.
there or comments. Okay, this
someone-
is.
So
Go
sorry
on,
to cut off
Chad.
quickly. Someone's asking if Pabuk was a 2019 storm. I mean, it formed in 2018, so it's the last storm from 2018. That's why it's 36W.
But
It's
named
only
in
intensified.
2019.
That's true. Did it take a storm? Did it take from the 2019 naming list or last year's naming list, though?
The Westpac doesn't have naming. Well, it does have naming lists, but they don't change every year.
Oh, I didn't know that.
How long have you been tracking with us, Strat, and you don't know that?
At least 3 years.
Well, you can't have a West Pacific naming list, really, when the numbers vary so wildly.
That's true.
And that's been the
You know,
case
this-
for, well, forever.
Just forget I said
And
that.
when there are usually a lot more storms than letters in the alphabet.
Indeed, 1 or 2 years almost went through 2 whole alphabets.
Hello?
Well, we're looking at
So
a
looking-
rainfall map in Australia right now with regards
Yeah.
Penny.
So it's day 1 to 4, and there's Penny there. Rainfall scale, right hand side of the screen, and we're looking at the blue up to the red, 150 up to 400 millimeters plus. Then we go to 1 to 8, and Nathan, it hardly changes.
In 8 days.
And I'm
Yeah.
thinking it's going to stall.
No, you can see it moving ashore there by day 8. The blue area.
But not.
Right.
Only a little bit there on the coast, but I'm
Yeah,
looking.
well, there'll be hardly anything left of the storm. Well, it'll be a pretty
Yeah,
weak
look at-
storm.
The
Won't be producing huge
BOI's
amounts of rain like
track.
it is where it is sitting over its area right now.
I have
yeah.
on my screen, sir. I put up a live camera that I found. That's in the path of apparently Pabuk right now. If you guys want to view
We'll be
it,
there in a minute, just showing that Bureau of Meteorology cone and just how much smaller is that cone than the JTWC cone. Literally half the size, if not
Oh,
even less.
Less than that. Third?
oh dear, wow, big oval.
Although that is only
Oh,
a
just quickly.
that is only a 3-day cone now.
Yep. Now, we'll just quickly go to another one.
What are we doing now?
So,
7 days.
Right. Yep, so Oh, so they do actually expect it to degenerate by day 3
I think that's
into a
day
tropical
4.
low, and that's why they're not expecting huge amounts of rain. They are expecting
Cat
quite a
one.
bit of rain in the Cairns-Townsville area, but not as much as you would expect from a fully fledged tropical cyclone.
Well, they don't know. They're having a bet each way. They're
Yeah.
saying it could maintain the tropical cyclone intensity, but naturally it'll be Cat 1. But we'll be here this time next week.
It's currently category 2 on the Australian scale. Alright, let's move away now and take a look at some latest imagery. We will come to Isaac shortly. Just this imagery here of Mona. The convection waned, and now you can see the rain rates appear to be waning as well. There is still some significant rain falling over Vanuatu right now, and actually creeping over into Viti Levu as well, especially the northern half of the island.
Yes, speaking of Mona, I'm actually looking at the JTWC warning graphic, and I'm not exactly sure how old this graphic is, but it does seem to predict Mona stalling for a time and then sort of shooting right in between the main islands of Fiji.
Moving very slowly, but I think that's going to happen pretty soon the way it's going. Isaac.
Yes.
You're showing us your screen as well.
With the live camera of Pabuk at the bottom right of your screen there.
I find that very curious how they're marking it to the minute when the storm will arrive.
I don't know. I have
4
no idea.
hours, 39
either,
minutes. Well, it's not quite as cut and dry as that.
Yeah. But
It'll
you
be
could-
Sunday night before it will impact Fiji.
But you can see there on
The
the left
main
of your screen what I'm assuming is the outer bands or part of Pabuk
Possibly.
approaching
Where's
the
the
live camera
webcam?
there. Yeah.
Where is the webcam?
Oh, I don't know exactly, but I know it's in a part that's getting in a heavy rain band from Pabuk right now. But I know it's in the path of it. It's right about where that on a radar. Here, I'm gonna get my mouse here. It's right about here actually, where the webcam
Is it
at,
really?
if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's about right there.
Well, the
So they're
people
about-
there seem not to really care much about the
Near
situation.
Surat Thani.
Yeah, about there. It might be delayed a little bit, so it might be raining there by now. I don't know.
Let me just check
the radar
that.
might be failed.
Well, yeah, given the radar, it may already
Well, it
be
says it's
raining
on the
there that
roll.
you can't really tell.
I can't either. I mean, it looks wet on the right side there, but I don't know.
Well, it might have been a high wave.
True. Maybe the radar here. See if that's updated. Should have by now.
Hmm.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the camera's right about here, so it looks like they might be in a little break between showers here. Can't really tell.
That may well be true.
Yeah. Well, looking at radar, it looks like that's likely. They're in a break between showers. If I'm correct, they're about here, so you can see the two yellowish oranges areas between them. So there might be just a little temporary break. Anyways, go ahead, Seth.
I was gonna just say, someone's asking what is the wind shear around Pabuk right now? Because apparently there's people arguing about it in the comments section.
For the
I'm
Mona,
assuming it's pretty high for all three right now. If I'm just going off assumption based on their appearances.
actually wind shear is
That's
pretty
quite an
good.
assumption.
Like I said, I've been out of the loop today, so
Nathan, I got wind shear on the screen.
Well, don't send it my way. So there's wind shear. That's the Southern Pacific. Mona is in a very marginal environment there at best. Could we look at another basin?
Upper level divergence is very healthy. It's up around 40-50 knots. Now, you want the West Pack?
Yes. No data.
That'll be right. No data.
No data
right,
at all,
updating.
as a matter of fact.
Okay.
I can tell you as of 9 hours ago, it was pretty high and getting higher, so...
I was right, my assumption was correct.
Right on Pabuk. Correct.
Yes.
Winch is probably going to be pretty low for 90W, by the way, as well.
I mean, it's looking pretty organized from at least when I saw a few hours ago this morning. Doesn't look quite as good to me as it did earlier today.
Even though it's right on the equator.
Oh my god! I just realized it's that far south.
Yes.
It's at 0.6 degrees north.
I'm not sure it's that far south, but...
That's what the latest HCCF update said.
Is it really? Wow, it is
Yes.
0.6.
But they also expect it to develop within the next 24 hours now. The GFS at least does.
Crikey. Imagine if that happened. That would be one of the lowest latitude, or nearest equator forming storms we've ever seen.
Let's see. The GFS expects it to develop at like 3.5 to 4 degrees north is when it expects it to develop. It moves it pretty far north, and it actually starts it at a lower latitude or at a higher latitude than where it is right now.
Right.
But it develops it within 24 hours and then keeps it all the way to the Philippines. So, but the Euro doesn't develop it at all. There's pretty big discrepancy right now.
We were talking about that in the last hour, correct?
But quite the early start to the year so far globally, much more than last year.
And much, much more than the year before when we were waiting until the end of January for the first storm.
Yeah. And do we want to show shear in the Eastern Pacific as well, just to cover?
Oh dear.
The shear is pretty bad. It's about 50 to 60 knots of shear around the entire system. There's 2 isolated pockets of lower shear, then about 15 to 20 knots, where the circulation, where the NHC has it, and then the circulation when Nathan had it earlier, and the stream before this. So it's in quite high shear right now.
And they have it at 50%.
I mean, I don't know what the models say. I haven't really looked into them, but there's that.
Indeed. Strat, any thoughts?
I mean, I don't really have too much to add at the moment, but you know, other than saying that, obviously dangerous situations in 2 parts of the world right now. That
soon to be 3.
Continually watch. Soon to be 3. Yeah, it could get up to 4 by the end of next week.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Total.
Yeah, not a great
I'd
start
also
to
like to add something on Mona. Thing is, that stalling motion that seems anticipated could lead to prolonged rainfall over many parts of Fiji, and that definitely is something to be on watch for.
And it's being reported, rain is being experienced in the whole of Vanuatu in Labasa. It's been drizzling since early this morning. Heavy rain overnight. There's a lot of debris being brought down by the rain from upstream. It's clogging up culverts and could contribute to flooding other river and creeks in low-lying areas of Labasa, also quickly flowing. One crossing is flooded. A lot of people are doing their back-to-school shopping and are also buying emergency supplies, and including battery-operated lights, flashlights. In supermarkets, cartons of bottled water are now running out.
Oh.
In Taverniuni, police say it's been raining. It's the same in Bua, the BUA. The Northern Emergency Operations Centre in Labasa is yet to be activated. A skeleton staff on the ministry is monitoring the weather situation. All HODS have been alerted and are also on standby. And a special welcome to those over in the Fiji region following our Facebook stream.
Indeed. You know, we keep bouncing around from one topic to the other. We do have several different systems to cover. If you want us to talk more about your storm, if you've got any questions that we can tackle for you, please send them in. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. Do we have any Facebook questions, David?
Not one at this point in time.
Well, I just saw someone ask, what is the amount of precipitation anticipated in Fiji?
I can get the HWRF prediction for that. That's the one I have access to at the moment. Let's see. Because of the mountainous terrain, there is at least the latest HWRF run, 32 plus inches expected in parts of Fiji.
Yeah, I'd say mostly due to the mountainous terrain. And
16 plus expected over at least half the island, according to the latest GFS or HWRF run.
I imagine that's
isn't
mostly
saying
because of the mountainous terrain and the anticipated stalling.
Which is at least 400 millimeters across most of the island. A significant area of 600 plus, and a smaller but still pretty significant area, mostly in the center of the island, of 800 plus millimeters of rainfall.
GFS isn't calling for as much, in fact only calling for around 300 or 400 millimeters of rain, and that's only in small areas, so interesting how they diverge so much.
Does the GFS move it through faster? That's the question, because that could be it.
Nathan,
I don't know.
Gone on the screen.
Regardless, still lots of rain in the area lately, so even 200 to 300 millimeters can cause a lot of damage.
What are we looking at?
This is definitely a heavy rainfall.
GFS 24-hour precipitation. Scales on the right-hand side. Look at that area in brown.
What does the brown indicate? Sorry, just in case people can't see the scale, because
140 millimeters plus.
Per 6 hours?
24 hours.
Who knows? I assume so. It's not accumulated.
Yeah, Mona is definitely going to be a rainfall event, and
That's 3 hourly.
just keep in mind as well, everyone, that in a storm, water, whether it's in the form of rainfall or storm surge, is almost always more damaging, a lot more damaging and deadly than wind.
So basically, Nathan, it looks like it's going to be to the east, southeast, south, and across to the west.
We've got some new information on Pabuk. According to the ATCF system, it's now up to 60 miles per hour. That's around 95 kilometers per hour, at a pressure of 985 millibars, according to the ATCF, which is run by US Navy / the JTWC. It's the numbers they'll be running with in their next advisory. The Japan Meteorological Agency still has it in their latest update as of 40 minutes ago at the same intensity as it had before, 50 miles per hour, that's 80 kilometers per hour, with a pressure of 994. So, opening a gap between what the two of them say at this time.
Wow.
Wait, 50 miles an hour, 1 minute or 10 minutes? Because it's very difficult to tell with the JMA.
That's a good question, actually.
The JMA's position really hasn't changed over the last 2 days. And I'll look and see what Vietnam's saying.
Vietnam is well clear of Vietnam now.
Looking at the live stream for Pabuk, it looks like the waves are starting to get gradually, I don't know if it's just me, but it seems to be getting gradually a tad higher now, reaching that little thing before the palm trees.
Easy to get confirmation bias on that, but I don't know.
I can tell. I don't know either. Apparently it's 79 degrees Fahrenheit over there, so...
It's the tropics.
Yeah.
Another look once
the
again at the rain rate inside Tropical Storm Pabuk right now, and interestingly significant amounts of rainfall starting to emerge on the western side. Are we seeing the same on radar? Radar
No,
looks totally different to that, although it could be out of range.
It might be. I could go ahead and try moving. Yeah, look at. I've extended it out here, and there's nothing on this side. It's either mountain interference or it doesn't just simply pick it up.
Hmm.
But eastern side seems to be the stronger side in terms of rainfall.
But it does look to be flaring up a little bit off the southwestern side there as well.
Yeah. Something of note, I guess.
You're still watching Force 13 live. We're in our second hour of coverage on these systems. We hope we've done a decent service so far, and you can still see ticking by at the bottom of the screen all the time the latest situations, the storms that are active, and the warnings that are currently associated with them. Severe weather warnings for a large part of Thailand, mainly the south. A lot of southern states there, which I would do well not to pronounce or even attempt to. You can see them all ticking by there. Lots of rainfall expected, widespread and torrential, they're warning of, the Thai Meteorological Department. And cyclone alerts for Mona as well. Most of Fiji under a cyclone alert, which could be upgraded to warnings later on. They don't do it. They sort of... how do I say this? The warnings that Fiji issue aren't really structured. They're more wherever the storm's 5-day cone is. Basically, if you're in the 3-day cone, it's a cyclone alert, and if you're in the 2-day cone, it's a cyclone warning or something to that effect.
And you know, as we've always said, storm conditions can occur well outside the cone, even though normally with cones in this area of the world, I've known them to be erroneously big, more than likely.
Depending on where it tracks.
Yeah.
Could we get back to the JTWC graphic for Mona, please?
While you're doing that, we have a good question in the chat. So it said, if 90E developed, when was the last time an Eastern Pacific season started in January? Let's exclude the Central Pacific from
Well, as I've said earlier on in the stream when Strat wasn't here, I was trying to find the records. But I didn't get far enough in time. I believe it did happen once in the first half of the 20th century. But without knowing the actual knowledge, I can't bring it to you. But I'll make an amendment as soon as I find out.
So regardless of very rare situation that could unfold, the GFS, the models show it if it develops that it happens within the next 2 days. So that's at least that's what the Euro and the GFS are saying. I haven't really gotten the chance to run around and look at the other models yet.
David's showing us the JTWC forecast for Mona. You can see the eastern side mainly has the largest wind field, transferring to southwards over time as it continues towards the south. Becomes a pretty large wind field there by day 3.
Is David also showing a Mona forecast?
Yes.
Yeah.
2 people showing the Mona forecast at the same time. Excellent.
And 2 days
Three
ago,
almost.
Port Vila and Noumea were inside that cone. However,
Oh, come off it, David. It's an absolutely gargantuan cone.
well, that's what you're saying, but now
that's JTWC cones for
Of
you.
course it's gargantuan. It's
It's the
How is it
JTWC.
gonna get there? How is the cone that big? I don't get why they do it like this. Do we know a specific reason?
Although I must say the Fiji cone is also quite large. Somewhere there is the Fiji cone. Nowhere near as large as the JTWC cone, though still about half its size, if not less. But it is still quite a large cone. Covers the whole of Fiji and then some. Indeed, one outlier model even took the system towards Tonga, but that would seem exceedingly unlikely. We'd give it about, I don't know, 80% chance that the storm is going to bend towards the southwest after moving through Fiji and then south of New Caledonia.
Why do all these agencies have such massive cones? Like, why don't you just...
No, the Fiji one is a
Oh,
respectable
what?
size.
I mean,
It just seems bigger because it's moving over a smaller distance. Now, as you
Yeah.
get further in the cone widens.
Well, the
And
Fiji
also-
cone is a lot more zoomed in than the JTWC one is as well.
Exactly, that's it.
still,
And
it's
I
not
said-
exactly what I'd call small, though.
It's a reasonable size with reasonable room for error.
And
David.
Nathan, do you want to have a go at reading the text on my screen?
Yes, well, I think I know what you're talking about. The warning from the Thai Meteorological Department.
Correct.
Well, there
And
you
also-
can see it. Do I have to go through it all?
Where's
No, just,
There is a more button there, by the way.
I'll just go over something in the
Do you want me to push it? Do you?
Well, I've seen it before anyway, so...
Yeah. I think we'll just go over something in the chat for a second. People are saying, oh, don't trust the GFS and stuff, because it showed 866 millivolts in Nauru. If the GFS has a problem with pressure, it typically goes way too low when it forecasts a strong system.
Wait, what was that one model that put
That was the
Irma at
HMR,
like
that was the glitch.
850 something that I
No,
remember?
no.
But
Thank
to
you
get-
very much.
To get back to the main point, is
Oh
that,
dear, Strat, what have we done?
You want to look at what the GFS says, at least in its forecast. Although it kind of shows on the weak side of things nowadays. But I mostly use the GFS for tracking more than anything else. It's ridiculous with pressure, and its intensity's kind of been off with stronger systems as of late.
Oh, wait,
so it's
I'm
hard
pretty
to
sure
use it for
it wasn't
some
the-
purposes, but better for others.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it wasn't the GFS, though, that had Irma at like 850 something. If I can remember correctly.
So I'll
Oh,
read
I
out the
know
weather
what that
warning
was.
from the Thai Meteorological Department. At 4 a.m., that's a few hours ago now, on the 4th of January. Yes, that's still today. Tropical storm Pabuk over the lower Gulf, due 200 kilometers southeast of Nakhon Si Thammarat province, or latitude 7.8 degrees north, longitude 102 east. With maximum sustained winds, they're saying 75 kilometers per hour. We now have reason to believe it might be as high as 95. The storm was moving west-northwest at a speed of 25 kilometers per hour, expectedly to make landfall on the evening of the 4th of January over Nakhon Si Thammarat. By the 4th to 5th of January, it will affect the south with widespread rainfalls and torrential downpours are possible over much of the area, indeed already occurring. People should be wary or beware of the severe conditions. These are the affected areas on the 4th and 5th of January. Widespread rainfall with isolated torrential downpours and strong wind in Phetchaburi. These are going to be terrible, by the way, these pronunciations, so do pardon me in advance. Prachap
That's
Kiri
fine, that's
Khan, Shumphon, Surat Thani, Nakhon Si Thammarat, Patalung, Songkhla, Patani, Yala, Narathiwat, Ranong, Phang Phuket, Krabi, Trang, and Satun. The
I
strong
think
winds
you didn't do that badly.
are forecasted with waves of up to 3 to 5 meters high in the Gulf and 2 to 3 meters high in the Andaman Sea. All ships keep ashore lasting through the 5th of January, and people in the Gulf should be aware of inshore surges. Their next advisory is issued at 11 a.m.
That's about 2 hours from now, just a bit over.
And Nathan, Radio New Zealand, is reporting another heavy rain. A warning has been issued by the Solomon Islands Meteorological Service Now, passing a Cyclone Penny to the south of the country earlier has resulted in heavy rain across the Solomon Islands over the last 2 weeks. The Met
Well, it
Service
has. It's not all come from Penny, though.
Well, there is an active trough that is linked to a depression, or to the depression that is moving towards Fiji, also Tropical Cyclone Penny.
And just to remind you of the current situation in Fiji, flood warning remains in force for all low-lying areas, small streams and areas adjacent to major rivers of Vanuatu. Cyclone Mona, they're calling it 985 millibars, by the way. They're expecting winds of 95 kilometers per hour with momentary gusts to 130 kilometers per hour, similar strength to Pabuk, as a matter of fact. High tide is at 6:14 p.m., 2.14 meters. Low tide will occur overnight at 47 minutes past midnight. The crucial timing could be apparent there. If the storm moves overnight, that is potentially good news. If it happens during high tide, then that's not good news. Their next update at 5:10 or earlier. Current time coming up to 3 p.m. in Fiji at this time. So we are keeping abreast of 2 situations that are requiring warnings at the moment, as well as Cyclone Penny, which is something that we'll be watching for a few days, and 90W, which we'll be watching for more than a few days, and also the Eastern Pacific disturbance. Yes, you heard right. There's an Eastern Pacific disturbance right now, with a 50% chance of development, according to the National Hurricane Center. Have they jumped the gun? Well, we'll see what their next advisory says. When is their next advisory? Before 11 a.m. Pacific time on Friday, or earlier if necessary. So they're doing daily updates at least.
Interesting.
And again, you can see 4 panels on Isaac's screen right now showing everything that's going on. Let's turn away from that and to see what the latest satellite imagery is showing on the automated service running by you there. There's Invest 90W. Looking a little bit interesting, but shouldn't be forming anytime soon. It's right on the equator.
Yeah, really low latitude for a Invest, but usually I think you kind of see these things kind of later in the year, but not. I don't think this is close to the equator though. I don't know.
So we have 2 tropical cyclone Cat 2 systems on the radar down here in the southern hemisphere.
On the Australian scale, yes.
On this Australian scale.
There's one of them. That might actually be out of date now if Mona is still showing as a Category 1 here.
And Cyclone Mona is about 300 kilometres northwest of Lambasa.
Oh, so hold on a minute. Fiji have just upgraded Mona to Category 2 right now, haven't they?
Yes.
They've literally just done that.
The cyclone is moving south-southwest at about 15 kilometres an hour.
Just to add on to that graphic there isn't out of date. They just haven't produced the next one yet. But the next graphic that should come out, I don't know whenever they finish it, will show the storm, depict the storm as being Category 2 on the Australian scale. And they're saying a pressure of 985, David. And then, of course, you've got Cyclone Penny, which is also a Category 2.
Yep.
According to the Australian Bureau of Meteorology, and they think it's going to dissipate in 3 days, which David isn't very happy about.
I'm not saying I'm not happy. I'm saying it'll be here till this time next week.
Probably.
The Euro hangs on to it for a long time. I think that it brings it across.
Because the Bureau just doesn't know what it's doing. Because, and they said in their first advisory, the complex.
What, they just said we don't know what we're doing, did
system.
they?
Yeah, the Euro actually intensifies Penny between days 6 and 7, and then brings it into the Gulf. The southern part of it intensifies it. That's almost off past the western side of Australia by the day 10 mark, as a still tropical system.
And I would like to mention to our viewers that I have been communicating with a couple that are on a boat up in the Endeavour River, which is right up in where Penny cross. And I think as the days go by, Penny is trying to go back to where she came from. When you look at the tracks.
Yes, indeed.
And Nathan, you said it could end up over there, northwest WA, off the Kimberley coast.
It could, but its strength by then is debatable.
Yes, and I think the key word was the remnants of Penny or another system, although the tropical cyclone formation guide is showing up northwest Gulf of Carpentaria and the area slightly to the west of Darwin, up there in the western side of the Arafura Sea. And there's nothing on the BOA any new invests or areas of interest.
Okay.
And Nathan, the
Yes.
Nandi Weather Office senior forecaster is saying that the whole of Fiji should now prepare for tropical cyclone Mona based on its erratic movement, as there is a possibility that it could track towards Venue Levu or Viti Levu.
Never.
And I know I'm not good with some pronunciations.
I believe that's how you say it, though. I could be wrong. If any people from Fiji are watching the stream, let us know
Our
how
dearest
to
apologies. But part of this is a waiting game, as it often seems to be, but a lot of rainfall currently occurring, although it could be a lot worse, especially in Fiji. You look at that radar there, it's not really that bad. It could be a lot worse is my point, given how the convection has waned recently on Mona and how it's not looking so impressive.
Hopefully that trend continues, because Fiji doesn't need any more rain as we've seen in the past few days.
Conversely, looking at the rainfall rates on Pabuk right now, it would appear that it's holding its own. There's the latest imagery. At least maintaining intensity there on that. And you can see the centre is still some distance offshore and looks to be moving north.
Yeah, we talked earlier in the stream that the possibility that it had that north jog, and it looks like it's actually doing it right now.
So it could be some time before the centre does arrive on land. And that means a lot of areas could get a drenching.
Yeah, I mean, the longer it stays offshore, the more rain they end up getting, because it's a more broad system and disorganized in general. So the precipitation isn't really concentrated very heavily around the center. Like, you are seeing heavier rainfall rates overall right there. The longer it stays offshore, just the more you're gonna really take notice of the additional rainfall coming in. And then I saw a question earlier in the chat that we never really got to. Someone's asking if it's still going to be a significant storm once it gets into the Bay of Bengal. I mean, it's supposed to remain a tropical storm for at least a couple days there. Just weaken pretty slowly. If you want to look at the latest JTWC cone, don't look at the cone size, because it's still obviously ridiculous. Pay attention more to the intensity on the graphic. They expect it to remain a tropical storm out there for almost 3 days. but slowly weakening. They actually expected to do a second peak at 40 knots. Weak storm overall, but not really expected to be significant at that point.
Just want to point out the Fiji system again, Strat. I'll let you pick up on that again shortly.
Oh, no, you're all good.
You can see how different the rainfall rates are here. This storm is waning still, Mona, at this time. In fact, the area near the center of the storm is looking terrible. This band that's offshot from the center of the storm is moving through, and the western tip of Vanuatu could get a massive torrent in a few moments, or possibly already, because it looks like just a little blob is, but an intense blob is about to move through, according to the satellite imagery. Let's just take that mask off, and you can see how it looks on the raw visible imagery itself, and you can just see how it's looking a lot less organized in those latest frames and much more shallow, and I do wonder how good its circulation actually is at this point.
Well, all we could do is hope it weakens, really, because like I've been saying earlier, Fiji doesn't really need any more rain as it is, and this is threatening to cause major flooding and possibly some mudslides too. Now that because Fiji's a mountainous terrain, if my geography serves me right. So landslides are also an option, I'm afraid, as well, because of these heavy rains.
And just picking up on what Isaac has just said, and just reading a little bit more of the news from Fiji, the Met Service forecast has again stressed that flooding of major rivers is still a big concern, as heavy rain will be experienced throughout the country. He says gale force winds extend to about 200 kilometres from the centre of the cyclone. The outer bands are already affecting the northern and eastern parts of the country. As the system moves closer to Fiji, rain will become heavy and frequent, and the Vanu Levu should start to feel the full force of Mona on Monday morning.
Monday?
Yep.
But it's only Friday.
Well, it's supposed to be Sunday night, and I pushed it out to Monday
morning.
You see,
I just don't see that happening.
Well, it's just slowing down.
There's no obvious slowdown on the satellite imagery. It could still happen, but the way it's going, if it's going to stall, then it might be right on top of the islands by the time it does so.
It doesn't exactly sound good.
Well, that's quite an understatement. But there it is right now on Friday afternoon. That's how it's looking. And the storm is still moving southwards. And if you follow the imagery here, this imagery only goes on for 2 hours. So the long-term trend takes the storm over land by tomorrow morning at this rate, unless it stops and turns around, Strat.
Is that black line the international date line, or is
yes,
that just
it is
something? Okay, just wanted to make sure. So this is barely in the Southwest Pacific then.
Well, it depends how you wanna. I mean,
technicality, yeah.
The basin really is the whole South Pacific.
Yeah. David just posted something on the Discord chat here that seems to say Mona is now a Category 2 cyclone. Yes. I imagine it's on the Australian scale.
We covered that about 15 minutes ago, yes.
And that's just what I've been reading from. It's just the link to the news item.
Category 2 on the Australian scale. Well, I think we're going to be finishing up our coverage for the time being, because we've been going over it quite a lot in the last 2 hours. I expect there's going to be a lot more updates throughout the day and night, mainly by David, I imagine. I don't know.
I haven't really had the time, but I'll be making sure to keep people updated with Facebook posts as regularly as I possibly can get them.
Very hectic time. We haven't really had a break.
Facebook page is in the description to follow us there, as well as subscribing here on YouTube.
And before we go, I'd like to say a special thank you to those that have viewed the Force 13 content over the last couple of days, and particularly on the Tropical Storm 36W. And like Nathan has said, the updates will continue to be posted when possible.
And hopefully when necessary, thick and fast, here on the channel as we enter the new year. We're still banging on about that. Year starting off very loudly in terms of the storm world. 3 active systems right now, and a potential 4th on the way in the Western Pacific. We've also got Tropical Storm Pabuk, Cyclone Penny, and Cyclone Mona. Also, the potential for development in the Eastern Pacific in the first week of the year. When was the last time that happened? I'm going to find out whilst I do the research tonight, and I'll come back at you with an answer tomorrow. It may never have happened, I don't actually know for sure. Strap, closing words?
Thanks for watching, and to everyone in potentially affected areas, stay safe, listen to the local officials, and in regards to the Philippines for 90W, too far out for anything for certain, but monitor the situation closely as well.
And I've got to cut in quickly, Nathan, before we go. Nate, Mason, that area that you have given, I believe there is concern from the authorities for that particular area. Kosamu.
Alright, let me just try.
I'm shocking when it comes to pronunciations, but
I'll just honour that. I'll just honour that right now. Where? Okay. Yes. So not long for that area. I expect. Well, I don't know. It depends on how the storm's moving, but it is going to get worse, obviously. It could take 24 hours. It depends how quickly that storm moves, but conditions are going to worsen over the course of the next 6 hours. Certainly a lot more rain on the way. That's all I can really tell you for now. We'll have more updates throughout the next 24 hours on the channel. Stay tuned. Good night.